We got my 2022 Indian Chief Dark Horse, and today I'm simply going to show you how to remove the ECM or the computer on the bike. Every bike is different, but this will work for any of the 2022 and up Indian Chiefs, including the Sport Chief. Why would you want to do this? Anytime you're messing with the exhaust, my exhaust is not stock, or the air filter, spark plug wires, anything that messes with the fuel to air ratio, the combustion of the engine, you're messing with the tuning on the bike. And when you start replacing components that are not stock, it will mess with that. And for you to get the best performance, you're going to want it to be dynoed, or in most people's cases, you can take your ECM out, send it off to somebody and let them flash it, and then they'll send it back. So I'm going to show you how to take this thing out. First thing, we got to get the seat off. And of course, the more stuff you have on your bike, the more complicated it will be. My bikes are pretty bare bones. It's pretty simple to do. So what we're looking at, we got the fuse box, we got the WCM, we got the antenna. This thing controls security and a few other things, and this is the antenna for the key fob. We also got the negative post for the battery. You're gonna want to take this off first. I have taken this stuff off without taking this off first, but to be safe, disconnect the battery so you don't shock anything. This is a 10mm. Some people use screwdrivers. I always end up just using this. WCM. And also disconnect the antenna. Mine has been disconnected a bunch of different times, so yours may be routed through here, and in most cases you can just pick up on this and kind of move it out of the way. But I pull mine out because I just like to pull the whole thing out. So now we got to look at the battery. Your setup is going to be different because most people don't take their batteries out. There's going to be a bar across here that you're going to have to just wiggle out, and it keeps the battery stabilized, so it's not just like moving around while the bike is in motion. And also there's a strap as well, so once you disconnect that, you should be able to remove the positive and get the battery out. And the positive, get that out. With the battery out, we're looking straight at the ECM right here. Now there's two ways to get this thing out. You can either try to pull it out. There is a hook, really hard to see. There's a hook behind the fuse box right there in the dead center. You have to slide this thing down and then try to maneuver it around, and also get it away from this wiring harness. This wiring harness doesn't have much give, but if you need extra room, you can take the fuse box out, just these two right here, and it kind of pivots out of the way. But the way I like to do mine, these are the two clamps for the electrical harness. If you pull it down, you can put that down, and that's going to pull the first one out, and you can flip this down, just pivot that out the way, and the second one like that, and there is the ECM. Be very careful when you are pulling this thing out. You see all those little pins? It is very easy to get frustrated and try to rush and pull this out, and then you end up bending one of these pins. You're gonna have a bad day. Don't ask me how I know. And putting it back, let's see if I can do this with one hand. There's a hook again under there. You want to get it under the hook. You'll know when it's in there. And mine is under the hook. And then you go back with the left piece of the harness, pull this one up out of the way. I would recommend to you to use two hands. I've done it enough where I can do it with one hand. But you see, once you slide it in, the clamp is going to guide it in place just like that. And once you get the left one in, then pull the right one back in place, pop it in, and now the ECM is back. When you go back with this, make sure this ECM is pushed up as far as it'll go, because it will make getting this battery in crazy difficult. You're going to be very frustrated, I promise you. And so getting it in there, making sure all your wires are where they need to be. I installed my GPS cable a little bit later than I should have, so it is kind of not where it needs to be per se. So move that out the way. I'm gonna put my positive back on. One of the biggest things about reinstalling this battery on this bike is that this battery needs to be in its slot. If not, when you put the piece back on top for the security module and the antenna, it will not sit flush in these little grooves. So definitely make sure you got the battery in its little spot. Again, most of you would probably still have this thing connected because the wires are pinched in there, but if not, when you sit this back down, you will know if you got the battery where it needs to be if this pretty much sits flush like that. If not, you're going to be frustrated because it's going to be really hard to get that negative back on that terminal. So once you do that, you get this back on. We can plug the WCM back in, and we can plug the antenna back in. All right, we're gonna put the negative back on. There's that arc, perfectly fine. Don't go cranking down on this like crazy. And we're back to where we started. All right, everything back together. Do a quick power on to show you guys that we didn't mess nothing up. The spike does take a moment to come on. Low on gas. Whoop. So we took the ECM out, put it back in, powered the bike up, no issues. So again, you want to send your ECM off to have it flash, you get performance boost. The bike basically gets a lot of the emission restrictions removed, the top speed limiter is removed. Yeah, you get my guy C3V20 if you want to get your ECM flash. I'll leave a link down in the description for that. And also if you want to get a exhaust for your Indian Chief made by C3V20, he hand makes these. I'll leave a link down to that as well. I will be taking my ECM out again at some point because I will be getting cams. I will be installing those myself at some point in time. So definitely be on the lookout for that. So hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more stuff coming with this bike. And if you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll see if I can answer them for you. But as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Catch you next one. Peace.